Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm gonna talk about some very unorthodox but very effective study techniques that really nobody talks about. Most of the study tips on the internet are filled with active recall, spaced repetition, and forgetting curves and whatnot, whatever. And most of these things actually work, but only for students who require memorization. So for example, if you're in medicine or law or MBA or business or whatever, these things will work just fine. But for tech and for software engineering, these things just don't work. I want to share a system and some tips that worked for me, somebody who came from a traditional mechanical engineering background, and then I switched into robotics and AI and software, where people were way ahead of me already. I had to learn software engineering, I had to learn electronics, while the mechanical front I was sorted on, because robotics is a combination of all these fields, and add to the mix AI. But you know what? I was able to secure a tech internship at MathWorks just 7 months into all of this in a very bad job market, and then 6 months after that I was able to get a full-time job. So in this video, I want to share what actually works for tech and software engineering students, because the traditional approaches, all of those are not built for how we actually work and learn in this field. So if you're tired of working harder, studying harder, but not getting any results, you don't have to worry, because you are playing the wrong game, and I'm gonna tell you what the right game is, at least according to me. In this video, I'm gonna show you the exact system, which might be controversial to many, but which took me from zero coding to landing a tech job, and why everything you have been taught might be holding you back. Hey guys, I'm Anudeep and I work as a software engineer, and on this channel we discuss topics relating to tech, AI, entrepreneurship and self-improvement. So if any of those things sound interesting, please consider subscribing. Enough of this cheeky plug. Let's get started. Let me tell you about my relationship with note-taking. Being in mechanical engineering, I was the guy with the most complete notes. I wouldn't say I was making the prettiest and the color-coded notes, but I would make sure to write down everything, even if it was in bad handwriting, even if it was not clear, but I was big on notes. I felt as if I didn't write it down, if I didn't capture all that was said during the lecture by the professor, I might miss out on something important, because what's the point of coming to a class if all of the information can be found in textbooks? Looks like I was wrong, because when I came to the US and I switched my masters to robotics and AI, something weird actually happened. I'm sitting there in the class, frantically writing down algorithms and neural net architectures, right? Taking these beautiful notes. Well, I wouldn't call them beautiful, but at least they were complete. I had in my notes all what was said in the class. And then I go home and I get to the assignment and I'm like, I have no idea how to solve this problem. I have all this information written down, but I cannot think through logic. Like, what the? And then it hit me. I went to the office hours and I'm watching my TA, and the guy literally Googles, by the way, before GPT days. So we used to use Google, for any of you guys who don't know. And he Googles how to implement backpropagation or something like that. And I'm like, wait, we don't have to have this memorized? Like, obviously we don't have any test for this class. We have to submit a bunch of assignments and then make a final project, but we still need to memorize all this to apply this at a job someday and to, crack interviews, whatever. And he said to me, dude, I Google stuff every single day. Why would I memorize something that is always available? And that is when I realized how different software engineering and technology in general is from other fields. If you're studying, say, medicine, you need to memorize anatomy and whatever, I don't know, the subjects. You need to learn them and you need to memorize them, because you won't be able to, for example, Google where the heart is during a surgery, right? But in tech, everything is literally plastered on the internet, and these big large language models are trained on data from the internet, so even they have answers to all these things right now. Now I work in tech, and even now I see people, even senior engineers, Googling how to center a div or whatever, like, these basic things, because we never memorized them. We have made dozens of projects, but we never had to memorize all these things because they were always readily available. They were just one click or a couple of keystrokes away. And if I was studying right now, ChatGPT has answers to all of these, so all of this information is just a single prompt away. So there's just no need to memorize anything, to be honest. So backstory over, I did something that made no sense. I stopped taking notes entirely. Instead, during the lecture, I would 100%, I would say 200% focus on understanding what the professor was saying, what he was explaining. If I didn't understand something, I would Google it right away. The goal wasn't just to record information. It was to build problem-solving patterns in my head so that I can identify those patterns and solve even bigger problems. Because the thing is, and I've said this exact thing in a lot of my past videos as well, tech interviews do not test your ability to recall information. They test your ability to think through problems. They want to see your reasoning process, how you break down complex problems, how you handle, for example, edge cases, something that these AI models are not very good at yet. And all of these things you cannot build by just taking notes. You build all of these by actually wrestling and struggling with these concepts in real time. Now, note taking was just the beginning. I did something even weirder. What I'm gonna tell you is even more controversial because I was paying so much money to go to a university, and if you just divided the number of classes by the amount that I was paying, each class was actually costing, like hundreds of dollars. And still, I decided to skip a lot of my classes. I had this one professor, and if you're watching this, sorry, professor, but the teaching style just didn't match me. Like, I tried so hard. No, I'm not gonna sing the song, but tried so hard to go to the classes, but like it was feeling so useless, and I just wanted like my heart and my soul just wanted to get out of there. And it was one of those classes where you would be more confused when you walked out than when you walked in. But everybody's like, you have to attend the classes, you can't miss, you'll fall behind. And I'm thinking, why am I forcing myself to sit through something that is making me more confused? And I have the exact same thing, the live recording of the exact same lecture available online just 2 hours after the class. So I started experimenting. Instead of going to the classes, I would head straight to the library with my Starbucks latte, pull up the recorded lecture on my laptop, and watch it at 1.5x or sometimes 2x speed. Absolute game changer. The 90-minute lecture became a 45-minute thing, so even after pausing, like I was able to get through the entire lecture in just 1 hour. And the magic pill is I was not just consuming passively. If I got confused about a concept, I would pause the video, I would Google that concept, or maybe go to a free YouTube playlist or a free 20-minute YouTube video that would explain that concept in detail. I would practice a couple of problems on the go, and then I would again return to the lecture. If I was doing all this today, I wouldn't even bother with Google and YouTubing. I would just head straight to ChatGPT and brainstorm the hell out of that concept with it, him, her, whatever that ChatGPT is to you, and I'll make sure that I understand the underlying logic. I would also ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to just ask me a couple of questions, maybe some numerical questions or some conceptual questions to help me make sure that I really understood what I was studying at that time. And with all these methods, my understanding of the material actually improved because I was learning at my own pace. I was using multiple resources. I was not capturing everything in a notebook because I would not even look at the notebook after the semester expired. I was developing the understanding. I was learning how to learn so that I can take that topic up anytime in the future faster than now, because all this material is available online, is available in all the books in this entire world. So I don't need to memorize this or store it in my notebook, right? And most importantly, I was also actively engaging with the content rather than passively consuming it. I'd make sure that I'd practice at least 2 to 5 questions on each concept I didn't understand in first go and then move forward. And this approach worked because that is literally how our brains work. We need time to process complex concepts. We need to be able to pause and think. But lectures don't give you that. They move at the professor's pace, not your own pace. And sure, I've had some really good professors and they are really good at picking up the pace of the students, of the class, and then they can slow down or speed up, and they can increase or decrease the level depending on their audience. But not all people are like that. So I want to reiterate that skipping lectures didn't mean that I was being lazy. In fact, I had become more disciplined about my study time. And this is where my favorite, calendar blocking, changed my life. And as cliche as it sounds, and as normal, as repetitive as it sounds in an Anudeep Sharma video, I want to reiterate, I blocked off 3 to 4 hours of deep work every single day during my college days, including weekends. Like, this 3 to 4 hour deep work block was absolutely sacred. After that time block came and I was starting my deep work session, I would put my phone on D&D, I would message my close ones that I wouldn't be available for the next 2, 3, 4 hours, and I would just lock in. Because most students study in a very scattered way, and I felt it during my bachelor's as well, and even in my master's. Some of the friends around me, they would maybe focus for 30 minutes and then they'd check Instagram, and then they need some snacks and they need some gossip talk, whatever. And that's fine if you're just doing some shallow study, but if you're trying to make real progress on something, you need to just lock in. I see a lot of people, they would just play Netflix in the background and then do their assignments, and that is something that I could never vibe with. So I created my own study system. Whenever a bunch of my friends, we all would go to a library to study, we would informally study for 50 minutes and we would just do our own work and then take 10 minutes off. Now this wasn't a rule, but in hindsight, when I see it, that's what was happening. We would work on our own stuff, and it was a sort of a Pomodoro session after session. At the end of 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours, we would just go out and have a meal or maybe have a cup of coffee or whatever. That made a lot of sense because we were focusing focusing on the task without being distracted, and undistracted focus, that is what makes the difference. Because in 2025, I shouldn't even say 2025, since 2015, this world have become a one of distraction, and your ability to focus on something for extended period of time, that is your superpower. I also want to drill down and let you guys know about each of those study sessions because they were really structured. In the first hour, I would just focus on understanding one concept completely, not surface level understanding. I mean, really getting it. I would watch videos, read documentation, try out some pseudocode or whatever, and try to get a very deep understanding of what that concept is, and maybe work through a simple example. And the next 3 hours were pure problem solving. I would pick out 15 to 20 easy to medium to hard problems to solve on that particular thing and just grind through them. And to be honest, this is where the magic happened. Like this grinding bit, this is the main pill. Because when you're trying to problem solve, you're not just applying what you learned, but you're also identifying the gaps in your knowledge, the gaps in your understanding. You're struggling with the edge cases, you're building intuition. That struggle, that is where the learning happens. But sadly, most of us try to run away from the struggle and hence no progress. Because it is in that struggle that you build the thinking muscle that is very important in tech. And I should mention, consistency was the key too. I did this almost on all days. On some days, I was accompanied by friends. On other days, I just went alone and did my own stuff. But doing this didn't burn me out because I was not studying 12-hour days. I was just studying for 4 hours, but every single day. And knowledge compounded, and compound interest, as we all know, is the eighth wonder of the world. So whatever. And to be honest, it felt like I was working less hard. I was working less hours than people who would grind through their assignments and stuff. After I got my internship and started applying for full-time jobs, I realized something that completely validated my approach. The stuff that got me hired wasn't my GPA, or it wasn't how well I memorized these textbook algorithms. It was my ability to think through problems. I've mentioned this in my previous videos. Most students optimize for grades, right? They'll cram for exam, memorize everything and get their A+, and then forget all about it a week later. But when you are in a tech interview, they are not asking you to recite algorithms. They're giving you real-world problems and asking you to think out loud. That is all tech interview process is, like thinking out loud. Like I remember this one interview where the interviewer asked me to design some system for a large number of users, and I'm like, this is new, but just let me talk it out. Obviously I didn't have a solution memorized because system design was very new to me at that point. So I thought through the problem, and as I was thinking, I was communicating that to them. So I thought, okay, we need to handle scale, which means we probably need load balancing, and we need to think about data consistency, whatever. So maybe we partition the database, and I was just like, I wasn't even sure that I'll get a second round call, but I did. Obviously I didn't make it to the final rounds, but it all goes to say that when they're hiring, they just want to know your thinking process because they are looking for a junior engineer, a subordinate to them, who they can work with, who they can talk to, and they'll talk back to them, and they can understand what they're saying, and they can propose new solutions. The junior engineer doesn't have to know it all, but they do have to know the fundamentals. They do have to talk through the problems. And come to think of it, all of this thinking process is exactly what my system was designed for. Instead of memorizing solutions, I would learn how to break down complex problems into smaller ones, think through the edge cases, explain my reasoning, most importantly. And the beautiful part is, this mental model transfers to every new technology you learn. Because in tech, things change so fast. The specific framework that you might be learning in school might become obsolete by the time you graduate. But the ability to understand new systems, complex systems, to see patterns, to think through a problem logically, those skills never become obsolete. That's what employers are looking for. The other day, somebody DM'd me on Instagram asking that, hey, I'm a first year grad, and what are the skills I should learn that will survive in 3 years by the time I am job ready, and by the time I'm looking for jobs and stuff. So all of this is your answer, because honestly that is what separated me from other candidates who were more qualified, more experienced, and were in the field for a longer time. The goal as a tech student shouldn't be to memorize anything really. It should be to develop the meta skill of learning how to learn quickly, efficiently new things. That is what's going to serve you throughout your career. That is it. Thank you so much guys for sticking around to the end of the video. I have mentioned it in the previous videos as well, but it really means a lot. Please hit like and subscribe if you have liked this content. Let me know down in the comments below which of these tips you like or which you are thinking of applying. I always read all of your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.